Welcome to another inspiring story to be shared on Leading Ladies TV. My guest today, I am really happy to welcome Dr. MyraLladlow. Welcome, Myra.
Hello, Amanda. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
Oh, I'm delighted for you to be here. I'm so excited about hearing your story, which is we've decided that at this point you felt like a leading lady, but in somebody else's life. But you are the architect of smiles and the architect of life. So I am just dying to hear your story. So welcome to the show, and if you're ready, just, share your story.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but I, at this point in my life, was what I would call at the pinnacle of success. I literally had what from the outside seemed like the perfect life. My dental practice was super successful. I had a secondary business that was also incredibly successful. It allowed me to travel the world. I was in a loving relationship, and we had beautiful homes, beautiful cars. Like I said, I felt like I was Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt.
Nice.
Sounds great, doesn't it? Yet, one day I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. I looked in the mirror and I looked at that person looking back at me, and I just didn't know who I was anymore. Like, who are you? Whose life are you living? And the answer was unexpected, because it wasn't mine. It really wasn't. And at that moment, I just drew a line and said, I cannot live like this anymore. I realized that a lot of my life was more about image. It was more about what other people expected of me, and what I should do, and how I should act, and what are the things that I should have, and what kind of business or how I should spend my time. And I got to that point where I said, no more. I need to know who the heck I am, was basically the main burning question I had in my mind at the moment. And it wasn't an easy question for me to answer for myself, mainly because I had so much noise around me with all this perfectness that I described. And so I was telling a friend of mine about my dilemma. And I said, well, this is the thing. Most people look at me right now and say, oh my gosh, I wish I was her. Yet I was feeling inside like, oh my gosh, I need to get out. I don't know who I am. I don't know whose life this is, because I didn't feel like I was myself. I was just like this leading lady in somebody else's life. And it came to a point where I had to get out of that situation. My friend, who I told, he says, well, maybe you should start running. Which honestly, I was not very thrilled about that idea at all. I was like, that sounds really awful and boring. And he's like, okay, well, if you change your mind, we meet at 5 at the park and whatnot. So one day I was just at my wits, and I just grabbed the first shoes I had, and I went running with my friend, and he had a couple other people that they went running with. And I was very surprised that I literally enjoyed it. The most, I think what I mostly enjoyed was I had time by myself. I was just by myself. It was like being able to meditate, being able to reflect, being able to understand like what it was that really made me tick, that I was really passionate about, that was important to me, that then from that moment on I would want to do. And I started running, twice a week with them, and then it was like, it became my escape, literally. It just became, I just didn't want to be in my life anymore. I just wanted to be running. Which is an interesting metaphor. It was almost like I was running away from my own life.
Yeah.
Yet, what it turned out to be is I ran to my life. I ran to who I really was. It took me about 2 years from that moment to actually get back to myself. I had the strength. I gathered it to get out of the relationship I was in, which really wasn't aligned with who I was and my values. It was aligned with that other person that wasn't. And so all of these little things like that, my business that I was currently in, yes, it was very successful, but it served its purpose for me, and it was time to do something else. It was time to move on. And the main purpose of it was empowerment. Empowerment of, I think, first of myself, because it allowed me to actually get back to me and realize that it wasn't too late to be who I was meant to be. That at any moment, I just had to decide who it was I wanted to be, what it was I wanted to do, and start taking the actions towards it. And then, what was really cool and exciting was that I knew that's what I wanted to do for other people. I wanted to share with them that possibility of, it doesn't matter where you are right now, and you could be looking in the mirror right now and not recognizing who you are and think, oh, geez, I guess that's it. I chose the wrong path. I chose the wrong guy. I chose the wrong career. And now I'm just stuck. And no, you're not. You could just say no more. Just decide. And again, it's not an overnight thing. It's a process of rediscovery, because I don't believe it's like all of a sudden you discover, oh, yeah, this is who I am. I think a lot of times is we just bury who we are in the noise of life, and we allow other people to decide for us at some point, and then we forget how to exercise that power of decision, of self-love, of being that leader of our life and not allowing others to dictate how it's going to be.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. And I love the analogy that success isn't necessarily the trimmings. Success is about how you feel inside. What would you say were the differences? What if you used to say who you are, who you are now, who was it that you discovered? What was different?
The main thing, Amanda, that was different is I was not afraid to be me. Meaning, if I had to say no to somebody, because that's what I needed to do for me, then I wasn't going to be afraid of that because of how they were going to feel about it, or how anybody else would feel about it, for that matter. So mainly it has to do with my decisions now are based on what's right for me and what's aligned with my values and the way that I want to show up in life. If it's not, then I just don't participate. And I have no guilt around it, because I'm being true to myself. I'm being authentic. Before, it was very different, because it was more about, oh, what are they going to think? How are they, how will I be perceived? Is that going to go down? Is that going to go over okay with these people? Yeah. And I guess the main thing is I realized that people, and I say this for you ladies listening mainly, we think that all these people care and are thinking about us all the time and are just like looking to see everything we're doing, and mainly they're not. They're just concerned with themselves. And we just need to remind ourselves of that. And I think I heard somebody, this has been a phrase that I remind myself of sometimes if I ever find myself going back to that place. It's my business is nobody else's business, something like that, or what I do is none of your business, or something like that, because it's the reality. And there's this other, I don't remember the exact phrase, it is kind of funny, but I remind myself of that too. It's like as we're growing up, we're worried about what other people are thinking until we get to a point in life where it's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care, because it's more important to me that this moment that I'm in, that it's exactly what I want to be doing in this moment.
Yeah.
Our life is short.
I use an analogy actually when I do my workshops, because it's the leading ladies. We talk about acts and sort of acts in our life. We go through different acts, and I say in your 20s you spend your whole time worrying about what other people are thinking about you.
That's it.
In your 30s you're kind of like still there a little bit. In your 40s you realise that really nobody's been worrying about you at all, because in your 50s you realise that actually they were only ever worrying about themselves. But it's a huge thing, I think, for women to have that feeling of what do people think. And we're a funny breed like that, you know, because we have close friendships and our friends are a lot to us, aren't they? And being able to stand up and be yourself in the middle of that is pretty cool.
Yes. Actually, I think for most women, we're afraid that if we do that, if we are authentic and we are ourselves, that people will not like us for some reason, or stop loving us, or not want to hang out with us. And you see what I've found has been just the opposite. Because when I got so clear about the things that were important to me, and that I was not willing to settle. That's like a huge thing for me. It's like I will not settle in my life anymore. That's when the big shift came.
Yeah.
Like that's when I met my husband, who is amazing. That's when the friendships that I've attracted have the caliber, or the quality would be the better word. The quality of those friendships is, it's priceless. There's no measure, because it's so big compared. If I just, comparing, going back to that moment of more of these, what do you call it? Just kind of people, not really people, they're just superficial type of relationships versus the real friendships of people that add value to you, and people that that you're adding value to.
Yeah.
That's what's, to me, is meaningful.
Yeah,
and I want to
very
have.
meaningful. You'll know, Myra, because we've gone out into the world, the both of us, and done things that we enjoy, for example, training courses and development courses, and sometimes you do make new friends at those events that become so important in your life, and yet you didn't know them 6 months ago, because as you're growing, they're going on a different path. I was just thinking, what can you provide for the listeners in terms of tips, other than, and including, grabbing your running shoes?
That's I understand. The running, it's something, it's just what it gave me was that space. So something that would give you the space. It might be walking. It might be just taking a regular amount of time where you're just by yourself, with yourself, where you can have that conversation of what are those things that are important to me. You can ask yourself those questions that a lot of times we're not clear about them, mainly because we haven't taken the time to clarify them. I think that's the bottom line, is we just get caught up in the busyness of life, and and I got to do this, and I have to take the kids here, and I have to go there, and our little check-off lists and whatnot that we can get caught up in.
Yeah.
And I think, as Franklin Covey would say, we get caught up in the urgent, right? The putting out the fires versus the important, the things that will really move us to where we want to go, that are going to move that needle in our life, and not just, not so we're not going with the flow necessarily. We're actually creating the current.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be. And in order to be there, we need to take that time. Otherwise, how are you going to know?
Yeah,
how are you going to know?
Figure out what it is that makes you happy. Actually, I don't normally promote for my website on here, but I have got a free giveaway on there at the moment, which is sort of discover your happy point. Actually spend some time just thinking about what it is that's going to put a smile on your face. And I try and do that quite regularly, because it seems to shift and turn, and one time I think it's one thing and then it's another, and I identify it through, if I just start to just not... I think women are quite intuitive, aren't they? They kind of know when they're not feeling quite right.
Yes, definitely. I think that's been one of my biggest ahas in these last few years, is learning to listen to my internal GPS. And we get these little feelings of, this isn't quite right, this is not what I should be doing. And when I found that when I listen to that, I'm steered in the right direction. And then I find new opportunities, new different things experiences that I could have not imagined, that all of a sudden I'm enjoying. And there I am. And mainly because I've been listening to my intuition, to my inner guidance and GPS, which I love so much. Sometimes in the past I ignored it a lot, and so now it's almost like, okay, I got it. I'm listening. So that would be one of the biggest tips. Sometimes we feel, you may be able to really relate to this or not. But I know that sometimes I would hear the little, or feels the weirdness, and say, oh, but that can change because, I would just justify it, whatever it was the situation I was in, or the thing I was doing. And the reality is, no, it's not. It's not until we've hit her.
Yeah. Gosh.
That then it's like, oh gosh, I guess that's what you meant,
Yeah.
You're right. It wasn't going to change. So things to really just to trust yourself.
Yeah.
Trust yourself.
I can so relate to that. I think I could relate to anything that you were saying, Myra. You were definitely a leading lady, right on my tack. I've loved listening to you, and I'm sure that the viewers will have really taken some inspiration from this. I'm going to go and grab my running shoes. And have you got one? I often ask the guests: is there one little mantra or one word of advice you'd give to anybody who's wanting to go out and make some changes like you did?
Well, I will share. Okay, there's two phrases. One is, it is because you want it that you must have it, or that you must have it. That's just been it's because I want it that I must have it. In other words, then I need to find a way to have it.
I like that one.
The other one is, it's just the possibility. I just love, you can make the impossible possible as long as you want it and it's important to you. And the main thing is you. Not important to your husband, not important to your mother, not important to your sister. It has to be important to you. It has to be something that you truly want. Then you will be able to find a way to make it happen.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to jot those down, put them on my wall. Myra, thank you so much for the interview today. I really appreciate you being on Leading Ladies and sharing a little snippet of what's taken you to that great big smile and a happy life. So yeah, I'm thrilled. Thanks so much for being my guest.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I have very much enjoyed it, and I just hope that if even one little word inspires you to go after what you want, then I would just be thrilled.
Thanks, Myra.